All right, we are talking about the fact that the Ghanaian government has missed its mark in terms of a target on the treasury bills that were auctioned just about a few days ago. And we have our guest on the show, that is Patrick Abankwa, who joins us from Ghana to talk about this. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Now, I'd like to find out from you, did the Ghanaian government miss its target for the sales of the treasury bills because they were overpriced, or there were other factors that culminated into this anomaly?
Okay, so I wouldn't say overpricing was the major reason why government missed its target. There are other factors that we can consider. One of such factors would be the declining investor confidence, looking at the economic situation that we find ourselves in. Don't forget, we had inflation going down for some time, but just the last inflation that was released by the Statistical Service showed that inflation had gone up a bit from the downward spiral that we experienced a month back. So that is one of the possible reasons. Another reason why I think government missed the target has to do with an impending third wave of restructuring relating to banks and institutions that invested in the cocoa bill. Government has hinted that they are going to do some restructuring, converting it into some treasury bills. And I know some of the banks and institutions are now trying to seek for approval from their board before they can decide whether they are going to still go ahead on the treasury bill market or not. So these are some other factors, in addition to the overpricing, that may have caused the government of Ghana missing the mark that is set for its last auction. But even with that said, I need to say that we need to have an idea of the target that government set for itself over the period of time. Historically, governments always find it difficult to miss the target when they have a target of more than 3 billion. When the target is also below 2 billion, there's always a tendency for government to get an oversubscription. So these are the historical basis for these two factors. So when it goes beyond 3 billion, there's always the possibility of government not meeting its target. And when it comes down, there's always the possibility of oversubscription historically.
All right, so now that 2.39 billion Ghanaian cedis was gained, that is 17% short of the target of 2.93 billion Ghanaian cedis. Would you say that the auction has been successful?
Yes, looking at the amount of offers that were accepted, you look at it by way of percentage, that's about 83% of the target that was met. Given the economic challenges that we are facing as a country, for me, this is relatively a success for government, but also highlight the fact that government may face challenges going forward with its needs. The volume for the maturing bills of around 1.9 was met, and for me, that is a success for the government. Where the government was not able to meet the target has to do with the sell buyback option of about 1 billion, which will be maturing 6th of July. That is 2 days from now, and that is where government fell short of its target. So when you compare the 1.9 that has to do with maturing investment plus the sell back of 1.1, that is where government failed to meet its target. But the short term, 91 days, 182 days, government, I think, did well by meeting the 1.9 target it set for itself on that particular auction.
All right. So talking about undersubscription, as you mentioned earlier, do such actually pose a critical risk to Ghana's finances?
Yeah, so if government consistently gets an issue of undersubscription, it means that if government has maturing treasury bills to pay, and undersubscription means they are not able to get the right quantity to pay that, it means that there's a possibility that government will not be able to pay off some maturing treasury bills, which has a serious implication for the government. Secondly, government may not also be able to finance a short-term project if this particular trend continues for a very long time, because we all know that government usually uses these auctions to pay down maturing treasury bills and also to sort out challenges that has to do with government workers. So if consistently we are not meeting the target, chances are that with time, government will not be able to get the funds to pay government workers at certain times when revenue shortfalls happen within the country.
All right, now, still talking about subscriptions, we discovered that a larger part of that came from the 91-day bill. So was that more or less like a quick, safe window for investors who wouldn't want to be caught in market unpredictability or probably losses, probably trying to cut their losses? Is that why they actually went for the 91-day bill as aside the 182?
Yeah, so the higher rates of subscription that we experienced in 91 days indeed suggests that many investors here are seeking short-term lower risk investment due to the economic uncertainty. They are not too sure what will happen beyond maybe 3 months. So that's why most of the investors are going in for the 91 days. It also means that they are not willing to lock their monies for longer periods, given the uncertainty and the issue of volatility in the economy. So most of these investors actually buy this short-term investment through their banks and also the finance houses, who are the primary dealers when it comes to Government of Ghana auctions.
All right, so as regards missing T-bill targets, we discovered that the Ghanaian government is actually accustomed to this, because when you look at May this year, the government missed its ambitious target of about 15.9%, following a target of about 3.3 billion Ghanaian cedis for the auction. So is this gradual shortfall going to be a trend? Is this something that you feel people need to be wary of?
Yeah, so I think that if this trend continues, then it's becoming a concern. It's a concern because if it's not managed well, the consistent decline is an indication that there's lack of investor confidence, and there's a potential risk of governments struggling to finance some of these projects and also being able to pay its short-term obligations. Don't forget, already, government has been cut off from the capital market and even the bond market. So government's main source of revenue now, if they want to raise some funds, has to do with the treasury bill market. So if people are not subscribing to it because of the economic challenges and fear of losing out, then government is going to face some serious challenges if care is not taken in the not too distant future.
All right, so we have been studying the Ghanaian economy for a while, and we know that it is actually going through a rough patch. There are issues with the inflation rates that are set to be climbing, and we know that it's also doing all it can to avoid recession, as the case may be. So I'd like to know, what are the alternatives to raising funds for expenditure and, of course, running the economy if the treasury bills gradually become an unreliable source?
So I think one of the areas government can consider, which is not too popular, is the issue of raising taxes. Already this year, government has introduced some taxes some 3 months ago, which was approved by Parliament. The possibility of raising more tax is on the table, but as to whether it's a good move around this time where the economy is still struggling is one of the challenges that government will have to deal with. Another challenge is that cutting down of expenditure. Government will now have to look at ways that some expenditure that are not too urgent, government will begin to also cut those ones out to be able to get the space to run the economy. Then how can also government increase foreign direct investment? By also going out to do a lot of road shows to woo in investors to bring in their funds to be able to support the infrastructure gaps that we have in this country. Again, the issue of IMF, we all know that IMF has already sent in a first tranche of support for the country, and we know that government has to put in place some measures to get another tranche of funds from IMF. So if we're able to meet that particular second layer of requirement, then we should expect IMF and World Bank to also bring in some bonds and some funds to support the economy. So for me, these are the alternatives that we need to consider, government will need to consider. But then there are trade-offs to that. There are some downward side of it. The taxes, as I mentioned, will lead to more hardship for some business and some individuals who are affected by these taxes. But of course, these are alternatives that government will have to weigh the two and make a decision to see which one will help it to raise enough revenue to run the country that we are already suffering.
All right, just to wrap it up, just in about a minute, I need your response, because you mentioned that the government should look around attracting foreign direct investments. Now, for a country whose GDP growth rates were said to have slowed to about 3.2% in 2022, do you think that investors will have that much confidence to want to plunge their money into the Ghanaian economy?
Investors will have that confidence, indeed, if they see that the directive and the instructions that IMF has given us, we are indeed following it. And don't forget, whenever IMF comes into an economy, it gives investors confidence that indeed things are going to be better. So that is the trump card the government would need to, crystal more to be able to convince people that things are beginning to change. Don't forget, you look at the GDP growth for this year as at half year and compared to last year, you can clearly see that things are changing things are improving. So that should be what government you sell to the investors to bring their minds to investing in this country. And for me, if they are able to do it well and also hit so much on public-private partnerships to finance certain projects, then of course we'll be able to get some funds to run the economy and also put certain measures to make the economy boost up again.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, Patrick, for joining the conversation.
Thank you, Tizé.
All right. So as the Ghanaian economy continues to face challenges, many will be watching closely to see how the government will go about responding and addressing these pressing economic issues, most especially as it needs all the funds it can get to rework the economy and also at least keep the economy at float, as the case may be. So we'll see what that response in terms of what the government will do will be in the coming days. That's the end of today's show, Business Edge. Do not forget that you can follow us on social media. We are at New Central TV. You can head on to our website also at www.newcentral.africa and equally download our mobile app on App Store and Play Store. There's still more to come on New Central Television. At the top of the hour, we will bring you the news, so don't go away. My name is Lekan Onabanjo. Enjoy the rest of your day.